Hello, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ken.
And another week has gone by. Another week, another Sabbath has started, and we're going to bring you a very, kind of a pretty tame topic tonight. Just the 10 Kings. Nothing exciting here. So we we won't, we're going to finish this up from what we started a couple weeks ago and didn't get to last week. David's with us. Glad to see you, David, and of course. Dr. Ricks, and I'm your host. And tonight, like I said, we're going to do we'll finish up the 10 Kings. And if you would start us out, Dr. Ricks.
Okay, we're going to start off with a bunch of short groaners. The first one, why do fish live in salt water? Because they're allergic to pepper. The next groaner is, why is England the world's wettest country? Because the Queen has reigned there so long. The Queen has reigned so long. Okay, these are real groaners, aren't they? What did one volcano say to the other? I lava you. Okay.
Come on, Dave, get with it.
Now, you got to be thinking about this one. What do you call an Amish guy with his hand in a horse's mouth? A mechanic. My cat walked up to a paper shredder and he said, teach me everything you know.
Yeah.
Now, this one requires a little thought, just a little bit of thought. What kind of exercise do really, really lazy people like? Diddly squats. Okay, now we'll pick out a few seasonal ones. Why couldn't the butterfly go to the fancy big Christmas ball? It was a mothball. Here's one that this one requires a little visualization. I went to my friend's house recently and noticed they had a big Christmas tree sitting there, and it was totally bare except for a shotgun shell casing on the very top of the tree. I said, what's the deal? That's the only decorations you have? It doesn't look right. He says, what do you mean? It's a cartridge in a bare tree.
Oh.
A cartridge in a... Anyway, cartridge. Okay, my last one. What happens when an egg lasts? Naturally, when an egg lasts, it cracks up. Okay, so look like we did exercise everybody's desire for a little groaning humor there.
Something like that.
Okay, now that you're loosened up and shocked or something like that, we left off last time with the 10 kings. We had discussed a scripture in Daniel 2 where it mentioned the 10 kings would be, or the 10 toes representing the 10 kings, at the bottom of the fourth beast, the iron beast, would be part of iron, 5 clay. And so the question is, as we move forward in this discussion, let's look at the leader of the 10 kings and what's the meaning of this thing of iron and clay. Because, it could be, it could be an important kind of thing to look at.
Answer off.
Okay. And if you look at, go ahead, Ken.
All right. Daniel 2, verse 44. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Okay. I remember Mark made this one term, it brings to my mind. He says, in the end, we win. Or God wins, and those of us that are with God, we win. So, the beast is going to be smashed on its toes in a great mountain, and it will consume the world forever. And that's good to know. In the end, we win. But this leader will be distinguished by being a frightening empire and a great lawbreaker. And that's what, well, here's one thing that let me see what you all think of this. I feel the world has gone into a sudden sea change. You might call it a spiritual sea change, where all of a sudden things are going in different directions. And I just have that feeling that, well, I'll give you an opinion and see what you think. The Brit exit was the first one. Everybody thought they knew how things were going to go in Europe and Britain would keep going. Suddenly they were shocked with the Brexit, the British exit from the EU. The next came the shocking election of Donald Trump. America's going to take a more, totally different approach to its economy and its foreign policy. It's like a sea change. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, I think there is an awful lot that's gone on. And if you look at the last 7 or 8 years with all that's gone on in the Middle East, and it's pulled the world in one direction, now we've got the people to kind of backlash against what's happened in the Middle East, because part of the results of what happened over there with all the Arab Spring has resulted in all these immigrants, as they say, filling up these countries that aren't used to having that socio-economic kind of invasion of their culture. And the recoil from that is Brexit. It's what happened in this country. It's what's starting to boil up in Germany and France and in other nations over there. I think Sweden, is it Sweden or Switzerland? I think they're getting tired of being the rape capital of the world right now, and we're starting to see a backlash. So I think that it's all building up to what we're discussing tonight, I believe.
It's changing cultures, and the people are not happy about it, and it's changing cultures apparently in a negative way. And I'm not going to say, I'll just pick two cultures, America and Japan. I'm not picking on the Japanese, but I wouldn't manage very well in their culture, because that's not who I am. And so when you have millions of people pouring into countries with that total different ideology and coming from, those numbers of people are going to destroy the culture.
And I would say, for the most part, in the past, if small numbers came in because they believed in the American dream and they wanted to assimilate or Americanize, that's one thing. But for the most part, these millions that have poured into Europe they don't even have any goal to assimilate, to westernize, at least not to the extent they like them. They're going into clearly set up, I don't call it a ghetto, but you know what I'm saying, Islamic ghetto or whatever, maybe there's another term for it in this situation, but they're not assimilating at all. I know it's anecdotal, but I happened to talk to a man about a week ago who was from Germany. We were talking about the German language. And then I decided to ask him some questions. He was visiting. He said, all of a sudden, not all that many months, the population of Berlin had increased by, I think he said 20 to 25%. And they were mostly Muslim young men. And all of a sudden, people are frightened and all kinds of bad things going on. He says the press in Germany is trying to hide the problems from the people, but he's hoping, he believes that Angela Merkel is on her way out. There's going to be a political sea change to the right in Germany?
It looks like clear lines are being drawn religiously, culturally, and everything else around the world right now. Real strong lines being drawn in the sand. And that's why we have a Donald Trump for president, because he came out and he said what the more conservative people would want to have somebody say about protecting our way of life. And but the world is fragile right now. And I think this thing with Putin, Obama tried to slap him in the face and send all the diplomats home, and Putin didn't respond to it like what you would have thought. He's like, "We'll worry about it when the next." We're not. He didn't send anybody home, didn't expel anybody, and says, "We'll just deal with the next." And then with same thing with Netanyahu. He's very unhappy with what's going on right now with us and the vote, the UN vote, and all of that, and. He pretty much, put his finger on Obama's nose and flipped his nose and said, "We're not dealing with you. In 20 whatever days, we'll deal with Trump." And so, I mean, things are fragile, and very clear lines are being drawn. So I can see this kind of coming to fruition.
I'm only saying this as a speculation. It may prove to be absolutely wrong. But the Democratic Party normally gets 70% of the Jewish vote. I mean, really consistent, no matter what. I won't say that. But anyway, almost no matter who you run. But this betrayal, as some see it, might cost the Democratic Party a significant number of Jewish votes. And the next midterm, you would expect the Democratic Party to bounce back, because they're the party out of power. But I don't know what was done with this Israeli deal could actually hurt the Democrats, and they could lose more seats. I'm not saying they will. We've got 2 whole years, and the press was definitely will be pulling to the left. But I know the press has a lot of power, but maybe they don't have the power they used to have, like same in Europe.
Well, Germany just came up with a Ministry of Truth, and that's supposed to be going through all the newscasts and writings and things to make sure that everybody writes the truth. It sounds a lot like Newspeak to me, but I imagine it's just a matter of time before we do the same.
Well, anyway, my only point is maybe this sea change, it could slow down events, or it could speed up events, or it could shape events to move us toward the final king in Europe and the Middle East. Let's go to our next slide. I would just tell people to watch what's going to happen in the next few years and see what is going on. But most people believe the EU is over.
All right, Daniel 2, verse 44. And in the day, oh, wait a minute, I already read that one. I got to skip ahead. All right, Daniel 7:19. I didn't skip one, I don't believe. Then I wished to know the truth about the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue with its feet. And the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up before, which 3 fell. Namely, that horn which had eyes and a mouth which spoke, whose appearance was greater than his fellows.
So it looks like what we're looking for is a kingdom which could be in some way pictured as iron. And at some point in the future will come up a king who will be pompous and super and special. One thing you can say about the Roman Empire, Roman legions were almost like, for an ancient world, weapons of destruction. When Rome went into full warfare against often many places, they would the Roman legions were like a machine. I mean, for the ancient world, what they did to Jerusalem, Carthage, read about it. It's unbelievable. Just totally destroyed Carthage and that whole area, which was at one time very fertile. I think they plowed salt in the soil. They made it into a desert, and I don't think it's fully recovered even to this very day. So Rome was kind of like an iron empire. And we all know which country its highest military award is iron. We all know which one that is, don't we?
Yep, Germany.
Iron Cross. I mean, isn't that a perfect fit? And for much of the Holy Roman Empire, after the First Roman Empire failed, much of the military power of the Roman Empire came from Central Europe, mostly Germanic tribes. Actually, it started with Julius Caesar, not totally, but partly. His best divisions were from Central Europe. I mean, legions, not divisions. That's more modern. But his best legions weren't from Italy or from Rome. They were from Central Europe. And that's why he was able to become emperor. But even beyond that, in further centuries, Charlemagne and a bunch of others that, you know, if you get a history book, you can rattle off, the military might of the Holy Roman Empire mostly came from Germanic warriors.
They are calculated and warlike people historically, and so that makes perfect sense.
And probably to some extent, they're more methodical and disciplined, and let's probably put down some of their neighbors. But when we took this bus cruise from France into Germany, the way it seemed to my wife and myself, it was like night and day. France was chaotic, the parking was chaotic, weird things going on. And Germany, when you cross the border, was verboten as verboten. Everything was orderly and methodical.
I could be wrong on this. I'm speaking off the top of my head, but I believe the word Germany or German means a spear bearer.
Yes.
And so that would tell you, I mean, they're known for that reason. And if you think about King Nebuchadnezzar, he ruled with an iron fist at times. So a Germanic, maybe the German way of doing things would be based loosely or somewhat like how he ran his country, Nebuchadnezzar. Because whoever is coming ahead is going to rule with an iron fist.
Yeah, that's coming. That's part of the Holy Roman Empire. And I believe, I've heard people say this, not just because of Britain or even that election that happened in Italy 2 weeks ago. Not just that, they say there's so many financial problems in the EU. Germany is holding the whole thing up, and they just can't do it forever. It's just a matter of time before the EU collapses financially and Europe has to reorganize. And it may be coming sooner than we think.
If very many other countries come out of it, if you think about the shape that Greece is in, Portugal, Spain, Italy, they're all in bad shape financially. And with the influx of the refugees into Europe, all this could be, all this added together could cause the collapse of the euro, the country, the structure, the political structure, the government, and something's going to rise out of that. I think that's what we're talking about tonight, and that's what we think that may rise right out of that mess. You know, what comes to mind is a principle you may have heard of called the Hegelian dialectic. Have you heard of that? We create a problem, then you create opposition to that problem, and you get a result from the people you wouldn't have got if you wouldn't have started the whole mess in the first place.
Oh yeah,
we started this mess in the Middle East with this the Arab Spring, and with Benghazi, and with Libya. We started this mess. That's the problem. The opposition, I mean, and then from that bore the influx of all the people out of the Middle East into Europe and United States and other countries. And the opposition is coming now, people pushing back, and with Brexit, and, you know, and with Trump being elected, pushing back at the world powers that were trying to allow all this and other things. Now, what's going to be the result of that? What's going to be the thing that they wanted, possibly, if this was not just an accident? Who knows? What's going to be the thing they get out of it at the end that we will agree to, the vast majority of the earth will agree to, that they wouldn't agree to before this mess was started? Because this could lead to war. This could lead anywhere right now.
Well, and then look who Trump's cabinet is. The Flynn,
some of the biggest of war. Yeah.
There's a Jewish gentleman that's very, very conservative and hardcore Jewish. He put into a position somewhere. So he's making strong statements, and he said he is going to be a good friend to Israel. The world is changing, and it seems like it could be very rapidly that we see a whole different planet.
Every day it's something new.
That one thing about the UN vote, and I have not studied it real deeply, but it appears to me that it's primarily anti-Semitic. They talk about racism, but that's a form of it, anti-Semitic. And then it almost seems as if the only major power in the world that's not anti-Semitic is the United States of America once this administration leaves office. That's very significant biblically too.
And you hear John Kerry said, you're either going to be Democratic or Jewish. You can't be both. Who is he to tell him anything, number one? Number two, his daughter's married to an Arab or a Muslim person anyway. And Kerry came out and said, we're going to work out a deal with Iran, Allah willing. So he said, Allah willing, instead of God willing.
But remember, what is John Kerry famous for? Being a useful idiot for the communist empire. Now he's a useful idiot for the Iranians.
Yep.
It is what it is.
And wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree.
I'm sure he means well, but that doesn't mean he's right. It just means well. Let's go to the next slide. I know a lot of people love John Kerry. So if you're offended, consider the source. I maybe just not as brilliant as John Kerry, but I still think he was like Jane Fonda. They were useful idiots for the communist empire. They were young and naive and, well, useful idiots. What can I tell you?
Yeah. I'm just glad he didn't get to be president.
Oh, man.
That would have been a disaster. Well, I don't know. Look what we've been through for a while now.
8 years.
All right. Yeah. Are we ready to move on to the next slide? All right. Daniel 7, verse 24. The 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and laws. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time.
Now, not we're going to do it now, but if you add this to the book of Revelation, it's clear that this is that last 3.5 years, which was often called the Great Tribulation. When those converted in the Great Tribulation will have to put up with certain levels and maybe very tough levels of persecution. Hopefully, we'll all be in a place of safety, except for those of us that are chosen to be heroic martyrs. And if God chooses you to be a heroic martyr, you're strong enough. But as I looked at the last part of that verse, and I just thought to myself, he's going to change laws. I remember seeing it was a show about the cult leader in San Francisco who took all his people to Latin America. And in the movie, which they said was accurate of what he actually did, one day he took his Bible, his worn Bible, as he was speaking. He said, I don't need this anymore. And he threw it down to the ground in front of the podium. He said, my words are good enough. I don't need the Bible anymore. I am the authority. And I guess he had about 300 people in his cult, and they bought it. Well, this man of sin is going to do something bigger and grander than that. His word will be law, and he will change many biblical laws, and I guess any other law he wants to change.
Yeah, this kind of falls hand in hand with the mark of the beast being something that, Sabbath related. If he changes this law, it's going to be, if he changes the Sabbath, that could have some correlation, obviously, which we've mentioned before, to the mark.
And
accepting them. Yeah.
Yep. Let's go on to the next slide, but I believe this is the direction that the world will hit at some point when these men get enough power.
Daniel 11:31, and forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. They shall take away the daily sacrifices and place there the abomination of desolation. Those who do wickedly against the covenant he shall corrupt with flattery. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits.
Now, Daniel is predicting that at some point the temple will be desecrated. Do you realize that when Daniel wrote this, the second temple had not yet been built? I mean, it wasn't too far in the future till they'd start on it, but the exiles had not all gone back, and then they took them a decade or two of battles and then fights to get the second temple going and finished, and all the sacrifices started. So Daniel predicted the desecration of a temple that didn't even exist. And he predicted it, according to my calculations, but they're probably reasonably close based on historical age, 366 years in advance. Now, you talk about, and by the way, those who dispute Daniel, remember, Christ quoted Daniel. So if Daniel is wrong, which obviously he is not, because there's so many prophecies fulfilled by Daniel and still yet to be fulfilled. But if Daniel is wrong, then Christ is wrong, and Christianity is all a big fake. So if you believe in the Bible, you have to concede that Daniel wrote this 366 years in advance, and it actually did happen, or a model of it, and the final thing is yet to happen, which means a third temple has to be built in the future.
Ezekiel 28, talking about Daniel, because Daniel, remember all this thing about the 10 kings and stuff, that has not happened yet. So his predictions happened, some have happened already, but others have not happened. Ezekiel 28:3, it says, "Are you wiser than Daniel? Is there no secret hidden from you?" Ezekiel is saying that Daniel is extremely wise. And so that's huge when you think about it. And then Christ is quoting Daniel as well in the New Testament. So I firmly believe that his prophecies, the ones that have not happened, are going to happen. I guess the biggest question everybody would have is it going to happen in my lifetime? My father said he believed it would maybe happen in his lifetime and definitely be in mine. And I have a friend that I Bible study with who's quite a bit younger than me, and she said it could happen in my lifetime, but it's definitely in hers. So I said, I'm pretty sure that the end times will come before I exit this planet or become at one with the planet.
Yeah, you all are younger than I am, so I believe you're right. It may not happen in my lifetime, because let's say if it's 8 or 9 years away, which it could be, and I'm not setting dates or anything, somebody my age could be gone in 8 or 9 years, but you guys should be here. By the way, a thought has occurred to me. If you die, especially quietly in bed in your sleep, in Christ, you're lucky. You've missed a whole lot of, even if you're not suffering personally, just being close to that much trauma. So, I mean, that's the good side of passing away. Not that you all need to worry about it, but some people do. Let's go to the next scripture.
All right, Daniel 11:36. Then the king shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god, shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished. For what has been determined shall be done.
Before you go on to the rest of it, let me ask you, Ken, what do you think he means by blasphemies against the big G, God, little g, God of gods? What do you think it means when it says blasphemies against God? I just wanted your thoughts on it. Any thoughts?
I think it's basically what it said earlier, change the laws and claim to be God. I think to me, that's what that means. He's going to claim to be God, and he's going to do as he pleases. He's going to probably try to like the world is doing now, probably try to disassemble everything that God has created.
You think have the nerve to say, I'm greater than the God of the Bible?
I think he's going to claim to be the God of the Bible. That's probably what he's going to claim to do.
There's a Latin American, I believe he's in South Florida, who claims to be greater than.
Oh, that guy? There is a guy in Florida, isn't it?
I believe so. He's a Latin American guy, and he claims to be greater than Jesus and everything else. And he's getting, his people are all getting 666 tattooed on their arms and one on their neck, and he claims to be more powerful than God.
Wow. The nerve. Oh, well.
You know the saying, crack kills.
Yeah, but he's got a million followers.
Well, it stands. All right. Verse 37, he shall regard neither the God of his fathers nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. Okay. But in their place he shall honor a God of fortresses, and a God which his fathers did not know. He shall honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. He shall act against the strongest fortress with a foreign God, which he shall acknowledge and advance its glory, cause them to rule over many and divide the land for gain. He's going to make this up as he goes.
And he honors the God of fortresses. I'm assuming that means that he honors military power. There's a way to look at honoring military power. If you were Adolf Hitler in 1939, you've seen all those parades where they had thousands of goose-stepping soldiers and planes and tanks, and at least at that one moment in time, it was probably the toughest military on the planet at that one moment in time. And I can see where you start to worship and get drunk with power, honoring military power. And one thing is for sure, military power can let you down.
Yeah, something else about that verse, he also says, and a God which his fathers did not know, he's going to honor with gold and silver. He's going to make up a new one.
Makes you wonder. Something that is not appropriate at all for some Western European or Central European or whoever he may be. It doesn't seem like it's going to fit. It's going to be kind of strange in many ways. Let's go to the next scripture.
All right, we're in Matthew 24:36. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. And he did not know until the flood came and took them away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be.
We've always interpreted that to mean that at some point, the world will get adjusted to this great united empire in Europe, and it's running whatever it's going to run, and the king of the south and the Middle East, and Israel with their temple. The world will get kind of used to it. And I assume at least many places will even be prosperous because the way it's set up in the book of Revelation, the merchants of the earth are going to cry, and everybody's going to, or at least those who aren't being taken advantage of, are going to really enjoy it. And it'd be good times. And all we got to do is just compromise with the beast and, let him have his way, or, say you worship him and whatever the official thing is. And just enjoy yourself, and everybody will be enjoying themselves. See all that stuff about the end time? Oh, that's nonsense. And then suddenly it'll happen by surprise.
Well, the only ones that are going to see it coming are going to be the ones that God opens their mind to see it coming. The rest of them will go to sleep on a train track. And that's why I pray. When I pray, I try to pray for everybody and all the things that we all pray for. But I pray to God that he'll give me the spirit of discernment so I can just understand what's going on around me. And understand the news speak that I get on all the cable channels, and know when they're feeding me something that's not true. And so
I mean, all the fake news they're putting out.
Well, there's a ton of fake news too, but I'm talking about just the news channels that aren't supposed to be fake. They're fake news.
Yeah, they're fake too.
That's where most of the fake news gets shared out there.
Or they put a balance, they put a twist on the story, which is almost as if it were fake news. Even if it's a true story, but you twist it in such a way it comes out false. Plus, I've seen stuff on the internet about people being dead who weren't dead, and all kinds of stuff. And somebody must be deliberately putting it up there, and it's, I don't know, Yahoo or whoever is not catching it.
Well, that's the thing about the internet. It's wide open right now. I prefer it that way because if they lock it down, we won't get anything. It's the reason why the past administration and the group was rejected because of the openness of the internet, and they want to get control of it and lock it down so we can't have access to any of that anymore. So I'd rather it be open, and we do our best to glean through it and get the most out of it and not the worst. That's free.
In some United Nations, the last I heard, the administration gave the internet control to some United Nations appointed committee. Then there was a lawsuit trying to block that. And I haven't heard anything else where the lawsuit's gone. Anybody know what's going on? Anything at all? Or is it still up in the air what's going to happen?
No, I haven't heard anything. Nothing's changed. I know that they had their big meeting over in Europe to kind of set rules and standards, and since then I haven't really been following it.
Because we'll have to see what happens. And hopefully China will let more things go into China too, hopefully. Let's go to the next slide. It kind of all fits in there as we get close to the end of this topic for the moment.
All right, 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 3. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worship, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Skipping down to verse 10. And with all unrighteousness, deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie.
I love that expression. They did not receive the love, L-U-V, of the truth.
Yeah, that describes about half the world right now. They don't want the truth because they can't handle the truth.
Yeah, I don't.
It disrupts their safe space.
Yeah, I hear all that. I don't care. Don't I don't want to hear it. Right? And if
Don't
you don't,
confuse me with the facts. I just want to live in my little cocoon, all wrapped up, so everything's safe and everybody's happy.
Saw something the other day that said
And give me my participation trophy.
we have bubble wrapped kids today, you know, and it comes because we have bubble wraps. Everything's all wrapped up and preset. So somebody comes along and says something that's not what you've ever heard. It scares them to death. They're like, that's crazy. Where could that possibly come from? I mean, with us, it's something as simple as a Sabbath, you know.
you know that term that we hear called snowflakes? College students, and college you're supposed to be able to debate great ideas and learn different things. But of course now college students have to be insulated from a truth that is unpleasant or one that disagrees with whatever their theories or whatever is politically correct. They call them snowflakes. They must be protected from hearing any truth that doesn't agree with their preconceived or their ego or whatever their ideas are. Oh, I don't want to hear that. It disagrees with something I think. I think, wow, this is the college students of today. That ought to scare them. Those are the leaders of tomorrow, and they're afraid to hear. They're offended at anything that doesn't agree with what they think. I'm thinking, wow, have we gone downhill?
You know, a society, if it gets that bad, cannot progress in any way, shape, or form. They call themselves progressive, but if you are locked down to new ideas or debate or any pushback on what you think or what you believe to be true, science can't progress. Nothing can progress in a society like that. It just stops. It just ceases to exist. Isn't that?
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that what? Did Rome get that way?
I do know that the population in Rome, they used to call it the rabble of Rome, was so mentally and physically weak. But I don't know, I'm not sure if it is like the snowflakes of today, but they're mentally and physically so weak, they had to have outsiders, we might call them mercenaries, in their armies. And that at least was part of what made Rome fall, because the people became mentally and physically spoiled. Is that what's happening to the youth of America?
Sure looks like it.
Take a look at this. You know, are they after soccer? No. Are they after, baseball? No. But football. Well, football teaches you how to move troops on a battlefield. In football, people actually run into each other and get hurt. And they're trying to just emasculate our youth, our young men, so that they don't have any fight in them.
That's exactly what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time, and it's getting worse. They're ramping it up like you couldn't believe. But yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're emasculating the male population as much as they possibly can.
I have people bring their kids to me, and they ask different questions than they used to ask when they enrolled in martial arts classes. They used to say, "Well, we don't want them to get hurt. Is it safe?" Or they tell me now, we want them to hit each other. Are they gonna actually hit each other? Because they don't have dodgeball at school. They don't.
That's right, because dodgeball is too dangerous, right?
We have it at my place.
Yeah, a rubber ball is real dangerous.
We used to play dodgeball when I was a kid. What's that? Anyway, many decades ago, nobody ever thought about it's too dangerous for us.
That's what we looked forward to, was dodgeball.
Exactly.
I mean, that was the one thing you did in gym that everybody loved, man.
Everybody got hit too. Everybody got hit, and you survived it. It teaches you what you can overcome, and there was always some guy get you square in the face,
Yeah. Now let's admit the football is a tough sport. Like some coaches will have kids, fall on the ground the first practice. That's just to prove to you the football hurts. Or you have to tackle some really big, strong kid running fast with his knee pads flashing, and it really hurts. So I guess you could debate that whether that's good for kids or not. But as a football fan, and I'm not saying it's a Christian thing, I got to be careful I say that, but I see the problem of, if you ask most football players, college and pro, if this game and opportunity to make money and get a free education wasn't available, do you think it's worth the risk? I'll bet you 99% would say, yeah, I know I could get hurt, but it's worth the risk. But they're trying to get everybody not to do it now.
Nobody's forcing them to do it. They can do something else if they want to. They can be a doctor, a lawyer, a programmer, a graphic artist, or whatever. They can get into marketing, merchandising, any other form. They can become a teacher, but they don't have to do it. They want to do it. It's their choice. You know, I pretty much quit watching football after what they've done to it. I don't know. We got way off topic here, but it's the same thing in other sports that I used to watch and like. They have taken all a lot of the competitiveness out of it, and when you do that, you ruin it. And it's just a shame to watch. People don't have to. Race car drivers don't have to drive race cars. You know, the guys that work on the high tension lines can get another job. They could have done something different with their lives, but they chose it. So let them do it.
Well, I think the point of what we're making is that we're trying to make here is that the society we live in has been so broken down that we don't think it's going to be easy for a false prophet and false kingdoms to arise because the people don't have any discernment, no ability to focus on the important things because they're so focused on the silliness, and that will be very easy to take the world down by doing that. And we're weaker.
Right. Plus, the world, the world's going to look for someone to bail them out of all the horrible things that are going to be coming down the line. It's going to be a horrible war and famine, and we're going to see all the pestilence and the earth. All these things are going to look to destroy society, and they're going to be looking at the point that the beast comes into play. They're going to want someone to bail them out. And the world is going to be softened up for that. And that's what we're going through now.
And weaker people need a strong man. Where
that's
the
right.
American ideal, not was ever perfect, but the American ideal was a lot of self-reliant people. You know, frontiersmen with their own rifle, you know, greatly self-reliant. But the world is going to get weaker and weaker, and they're going to demand a strong man and be weak-minded and easily deceived. Let's go to the next verse. I know we're just about the end of the topic, but I want to just cover this before we end it. One or two more verses.
All right, Matthew 24:24. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect.
That scripture implies clearly that it's not possible to deceive the very elect. But if it were, Satan is going to do some really deceptive things with modern propaganda and modern media and the devil's cleverness. He's going to make the beast and the false prophet really deceive this world.
You know, and somehow if he's going to deceive everybody, then he's going to be able to deceive conservative people, liberal people, and everything in between. Just something to think about.
Also, if you look at the 5 clay and the 5 iron countries, you know, if you're coming down with choices, clay, I think, is Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, and at least probably southern France. A good deal of France. The iron would be Germany, Netherlands, Austro-Hungarian Empire, Poland, and the Russian Empire of the Tsar, which would have included Romania, Ukraine, and well, you know how big the Russian, the Tsar's empire was. If that throne ever comes back, and by the way, this is the 100th anniversary of Charles, who was crowned in 1916 king of the the last Habsburg to rule the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which included Austria, Hungary, and Yugoslavia. So it was a huge empire. This is the 100th anniversary of his being crowned. And while we might chuckle at all those old thrones and crowns, you realize that there are pretenders. They have a picture of a guy who I guess is the pretender to that throne now. There's an article that's on the internet, and they talk about him, and a picture from 1916 of, I guess his great-great-grandfather was enshrined. By the way, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was the head of the Holy Roman Empire. It sort of existed during the days of the Spanish kings and of Napoleon and these guys. You know, it says in the Bible, it's there, but it wasn't there, but it comes back. Well, that fits the Holy Roman Empire. It's been around Europe, bouncing around for centuries, maybe not completely together and strong, but it's been there, and it's coming back one final time. And let's see, we don't have any other scriptures, do we, Ken?
Yeah, we've got one final.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of pulled together. Matthew 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, the holy place. Oh, well, I didn't get it all for some reason. Let's finish that here real quick. Whoever reads, let him understand. But when you see him standing there, you'll know that what is the word?
Abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
And by the way, in case anybody wants to question Daniel and all the things he said, remember the God of the New Testament, Jesus Christ, the core of Christianity, quoted Daniel and said that what Daniel predicted that happened in 164 BC with Antiochus Epiphanes is going to happen one more time and be more significant. And when that happens, the end will be very close. So we'll be on a real close countdown when that happens. And I gather the way it's written up, it will happen suddenly, because I think Antiochus Epiphanes, he kind of through subterfuge and lying and trickery, he undermined some of the Jewish priests, and then suddenly double-crossed them, took over the temple, and put a statue of, I guess, Zeus in there, and pigs, swine on the altar, and other horrible things. And something similar to that will happen in the maybe not too distant future.
But Satan doesn't change his ways. He seems to fall back into his same pattern of what he tries to accomplish. So it's to me, it's obvious that we're going to go right back and follow the same, route that the other countries have always followed. And his end result, what he's shooting for is not changed. He still has his eye on the same prize that he had it on from day one in the Garden of Eden.
Yep, and it's interesting to see how everything is starting to ramp up and play out, and how fast things are moving, and it's kind of fascinating to watch it all, kind of on a daily basis, pretty much right now.
My neighbor asked me what I thought was going on, and I said it's really simple. I read my Bible, I watch it happen. I read my Bible, I watch it happen, and and he just didn't get it at all.
Right, and so much is happening. Things that normally would be big news just gets wiped right off the page, never makes it, because it's just so much else is going on. It's just a lot of things that would have made the news headlines just kind of get pushed to the side now.
I do think Europe and America and other countries will become more nationalistic, which usually means building up military power. I'm not so much worried about America's military power, but it's the European the Chinese, the Japanese military power being built up, and the Middle East as well, Iran and others, that we probably got to worry about prophetically. And it is coming. I can sense it. You know, when all is said and done, things start falling apart, these countries are going to start relying on their own military more so.
Well, I can see a European military as opposed to a German military or a, you know, French military. I can see a European military at this point, simply because of the invasion that they're facing throughout all of Europe, and that would be a very formidable military.
And if they, and it may not be this way, it could obviously be, those other names could jump around a little different. But if you had an empire that stretched from Portugal, you know, deep into the Atlantic Ocean, all the way to somewhere Ural Mountains east of Moscow, and all of Eastern Europe, and of course a lot of those countries have nuclear weapons and missiles. And Germany broke the record for nuclear submarines, by the way, 2 years ago, which I was shocked that they're making and selling and become experts in nuclear subs. But the point I'm getting at, all those, that's a large body of land with a vast population. It could make a great trading bloc and a great military empire, because so could the Middle East, but Europe would certainly be greater.
You know, you were talking about military buildups. Name one country or region that's not currently building up their military. You know, 20 years ago, everybody was downsizing. Everybody's ramping back up. China, Japan, all of Europe is getting together and getting more, you know, buying more military. Russia, the United States is going to flip the switch here in a short order and ramp back up. I mean, who's not? Canada, maybe? I don't know. I mean, who's not ramping up right now?
By the way, last week I saw that the first, I assume it's a nuclear-powered fleet from China, with China's first first aircraft carrier, with very brand new stealth-like, at least they looked like stealth jets. I don't know what they were, but and they showed them doing exercise, taking off from the Chinese carrier, and they've also built up islands, which are like little floating carriers in the South China Sea. And China is flexing its muscles, if to say the South China Sea and that great trade route through Singapore and all those other places in that area belong to China now. And it's interesting to see how that works out, isn't it?
Yeah, they've had a free hand for so long now. If we start building back up and start to push back, they may not take kindly to that. They've had all this free reign to do what they wanted to do for the last 8, 12 years.
I heard this on the radio. I think it's radio. The guy was talking about maybe the administration was right to punish Russia for hacking. But he said, but how come, was it 3 years ago, they caught the Chinese and they got all the federal workers' records, including their social security numbers and much other stuff, from they hacked it, and they pretty much sure the Chinese did it. He said, how come we didn't do anything about it? And then a couple other examples where other countries have hacked stuff. They said they've been hacking into Washington's stuff at least for several years now, and our government has said nothing about it.
And it gets forgotten. It just goes away on the news. It just gets forgotten.
Yeah, because they didn't need someone to blame. That's why. Now they need someone to blame, and the Russians are convenient.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But apparently, there's going to be a lot of hacking and spying, and has been, and I assume it will continue to get worse. Don't you think, Ken?
Yeah, it's not getting better. It's going to get a lot worse. One of the problems now is everybody's connecting their house. They're putting light bulbs and all these things in their house that's called the IoT, Internet of Things, and all these things are vulnerable to hacks that'll let people into their networks and into their systems that people don't think of, like baby monitors to cameras that people put in their house. These things all have security flaws. Some of them are horrible security flaws, and they're just going to be, just that's individual. And then as far as government goes, a lot of these systems are Stone Age systems. They have not upgraded. So
I heard they need to
easily
hardwire them to protect them from magnetic pulses. I was thinking, if someone could unlock your door electronically, wouldn't that put your house at great risk? And turn off your burglar alarm? Because I know you can turn your burglar alarm on and off from remote control. Well, can't that be hacked?
Of course. Everything can be hacked.
It doesn't make you feel too secure, does it?
There are things that hackers are working on that would ways to hack computers that would blow your mind.
They're sitting in their basement. That's all they're doing, thinking of ways to screw you up.
They've been able to hack computers with sound.
How do you do that? Without a wire connection?
No, yep, with sound.
Whoa, I wouldn't even thought of that. Oh well. Let me mention what we're going to be doing next week. Maybe the next few weeks, God willing, or we might make changes if it seems appropriate to do so. But next week we're going to look at Ezekiel 20:25. Did God give bad laws to Israel? And then after that, we're going to look at, are we God's real sons or are we adopted? Ephesians 1:5. And maybe this is a very deep topic. On the 20th of February, 20th of January. 20th of January 17. Hope I said that correctly. 20th of January 17, because I'll see you all next year. By the way, I'll see you all next year. Next year. Anyway, it will be, how are we saved by faith? And it's not what the world thinks. You just say, I have faith, and then you do nothing else. But I think it's a really deep topic that we need to think about and discuss more. So I want to prepare people, but we're going to try to get, at least in some of these topics, some are just misunderstandings, but some are deep spiritual topics that I want to encourage people to watch.
Yep, there's some great examples in the Bible of faith and what power it actually has. If you really dig into them, you can really find some amazing stories in there. Well, do we have anything else we want to cover? No new news, or did we cover pretty much everything? Or well, I want to thank everyone for watching. As we had a fair amount of viewers, and I appreciate that. I hope everyone is doing well, and everyone will come back again. Dave, thank you, and obviously our host, Dr. Ricks, thank you for putting this all together. And we will see you all again next week.
Good night.
If I can find the screen.
Good night. Thank you, Ken.
We're happy you could make it. So glad you are here, and hope that we've been able to make God's word more clear. Until next time, may God be with you in everything you try. Next week, we have to say goodbye.